Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for joining me. Today, I get the chance to teach you a Reiner Knizia game, which that statement in itself is already exciting, but along with that, I get to teach you a game that is being brought back to life by 25th Century Games and is currently available on Kickstarter. This is Tutankhamun, or King Tut, as you might be more familiar with him. This is a 2 to 6 player game, ages 8 and up, and plays in about 15 to 30 minutes, where you're doing everything you can to expend your wealth in mourning of the young king's passing. You're going to be sailing down the Nile River here, collecting matching sets of different artifacts, using the powers of the gods, and hopefully, before any of the other priests or priestesses are able to, you will expend your grief and rid yourself of the burdens of this earth, giving and gifting and spending and blessing King Tut in his final resting place with all of the gems and immaculate things of this world, so that he can drift off in peace and in prosperity. And in doing so, of course, the new Pharaoh will recognize your generosity, will reward your immaculate gift-giving, will want someone as loyal and dedicated and selfless as you to join his ranks as the high priest. So in this game, you're going to be using your boat to wind your way down this river, never doubling back, never going in a different direction. And while you go on this journey, you'll be taking tiles and collecting matching sets, hoping or trying to be the person who procures the most of these matching tiles as possible, so that when the time comes to add them to the tomb and bid them farewell, you will be granted the honor of paying the price for them, or scoring the victory points, or reducing your coin track so that you reach 0 before any of your competitors. In this how to play video, I'm going to do a few things. First off, I'm going to generally go over setup here so you understand how this is built out. Second, I'm going to dig into a player's turn, talk about resolving the end of a player's turn and what other players should be paying attention to, and then finally go over some of the special god abilities in this game, which are the elements that add depth to the strategy here. They really do start mixing things up, so I want to set the foundation before I dig into them. There will be timestamps down below if you are interested in skipping to any of these sections, so feel free to check that out just to get a sense of this game. Now, I do want to acknowledge that this is a prototype copy that I'm working with from 25th Century Games, so when it comes to the actual finished production copy, I believe they're doing wood tiles and everything like that. So this, as far as I'm aware, this is going to be a very fancy game by the time it's all said and done. That being said, I mean, this prototype copy works well as it is. So when starting a game of Tutankhamun, when you're beginning to set up the game, you're going to do a few things. First off, you're going to determine the number of players. This can play up to 6 players, and they will each take a matching boat and a matching urn, which is the score track on the outside of this board here. All those urns will start at the same point, depending on the number of people you have playing the game. In a 2-player game, you're going to start with 30 points. In a 3-player, 28, 4, 24, 5, 20, and 6, 18. You'll go ahead and place those around the outer edge here, and you will place the sarcophagi neatly in the center of the tomb, laying him to rest, preparing to honor his passing. You will place the underworld board with the 2 monuments over on the edge, somewhere near the starting point of this journey. Every player should have a reference card for the god abilities, and then you will shuffle up these tiles and place them down in a snake-like pattern here. This is going to be the Nile River which you are following. From that point on, you're really ready to begin playing this game. Now, when it comes to the tiles specifically, and you're teaching your friends, you should be aware of the distribution of tiles here. There are going to be 3 sets of matching 8. There's going to be 3 sets of matching 6. There's going to be 3 sets of matching 4, 3 sets of matching 2, and 1 set of matching 10. Now, one thing that is important to remember, one thing that is very helpful, the number listed on each of these artifact sets, or the number that you're paying, the coin that you're expending to add it to the tomb here, that is going to be the same number that denotes how many are in that collection. So if you're collecting one of these little monuments that has a 6 down here in the corner, you will know that there are a total of 6 of those that exist somewhere here on the Nile River. So as you're playing, keep an eye on how many sets are remaining, how many sets have gone to the underworld, and how many sets are in other players' personal collections. Now when the game actually begins, your actions are going to be pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You're going to start by selecting your boat from wherever it is on this Nile River and moving it down. Now you can go as far down as you would like, but you can never go backwards. When you sail, you will place your boat where that tile is, take that tile back into your own personal collection, check for any tiles that have been passed behind you, check for any sets that are currently exhausted, meaning maybe you took or discarded the very last tile of that set, resolve those, placing them in the tomb, paying the points necessary, and then passing to the next player, oftentimes to the player on your left. When you choose to sail your boat, as I said, you can sail to any tile here on the board. There are going to be some important elements to keep in mind though. If you pass any tiles and there are no players behind you on the board, those tiles will be immediately discarded into the underworld, progressing the sets that need to be collected and potentially adding some tiles that you might be able to pull with some god powers, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Along with that, my ambitious move to the middle of the Nile here, while it looked good on camera, is probably not the strategy you want to go for. This will oftentimes be a strategic and very purposeful game, where you're looking just a few tiles ahead of you and trying to make the best decision around which tiles you want to step on and collect, which sets you want to lean into, and what tiles you might want to leave back behind you for other players to collect, or potentially to be sent into the underworld so that you can go ahead and score your tiles. Now when you move on to a tile, you're going to go ahead and resolve that tile. If it is any of the collections themselves, you'll just remove that tile, place your boat down on the location where you landed, and go ahead and add that tile directly in front of you into your set collection, leaving your boat where that tile initially was placed. If you land on a god tile, you will immediately resolve the special effect of that god. There are going to be a total of 5 gods in this game, and we'll go through those special effects in just a moment. After you've finished resolving your tiles, you're going to check behind you for any trailing tiles remaining. For instance, blue and red are not playing in this game. Green is going to go ahead and sail forward all the way up to here, collecting a tile. And that means this final tile directly behind him, there are no more boats that could go back up the Nile in order to collect it. That tile will come off of the board and be placed down here into the underworld, meaning that it is lost, or presumably lost, at least for now. If that trailing tile that was behind all the ships happened to be a god tile, you'll immediately place it in the underworld as well without triggering its immediate action. After you've resolved any trailing tiles, you're next going to check for scoring, since you can win and progress this game throughout the immediate course of gameplay. After every player goes, double check to make sure that there are still collections remaining here on the board. Let's go ahead and find an easy one for me to reference. I have the dagger blade of 2. When this other dagger blade is removed from the game, either someone adds it to their own personal collection, I add it to my collection, or it is placed in the underworld because ships have sailed past it, I will immediately resolve scoring. Now scoring on these sets is going to be pretty straightforward. Whoever has the highest number of a collection are going to take them, very gently lower them into the tomb with all the due respect, and go ahead and lower their marker by the number indicated on that set. Whoever has half as much, so in a set of 6, if I had 4 and another player had 2, the other player would be able to pay half of that value. So I would pay 6, the other player would pay 3. If there is a tie for first place, then whoever is the farthest up the Nile will resolve that, scoring that first place. If there is a tie for second place, whoever is the farthest back on the Nile will score that, meaning the third person, the person who tied in that situation, would not score any points during that round. That's going to be the most common way to resolve artifacts and scoring whenever there are none left out here on the Nile itself. However, there's also going to be one other set of artifact that is going to be our Scarabs, which each have a unique number 1 down there in the corner. When you collect a Scarab tile, meaning you sail your boat forward, you land on that space, you add the tile into your collection, you'll immediately pay that 1 value amount. When all the Scarabs, all 10 of them, are removed from the Nile, whoever has the most of these tokens will score an additional 5 points, or suppose spend an additional 5 money. Doing the same thing where you reverently add it into the sarcophagi here. If there is a tie for the number of Scarab tiles, whoever is the farthest upstream will score that. Once one set is completely collected, you will not only remove them from players' collections, but also from the underworld, and add all of those into the tomb. After you've resolved your movement, gone ahead and checked the tile you landed on, double-checked for any tiles that are trailing behind you, and went ahead and made sure that all of the scoring and the upkeep was complete, you will pass your turn to the next player. The game will continue in this pattern, trying to collect sets, doing your very best to reduce your total gold, and using special abilities of the gods, which we'll get to in just a moment, until the first player reaches 0. When a player has expended all of their wealth, then the game will come to an end. They will be declared the High Priestess. If by chance 2 players have reached 0 at the exact same time, on the exact same turn, whoever is the farthest up the Nile will win. If the game arrives at the tomb before any players have reached that 0 mark, whoever is the lowest on the track will end up winning. So that's how play progresses. Now is our chance to dive in to some of these god powers. When you land on a god tile and bring it into your collection, you will immediately trigger its ability. Now there's going to be 5 different types of gods, and let's go ahead and go through what their abilities do and how they might be implemented into this game. We'll start with Ra. Remove a tile from anywhere in the Nile and place it in the underworld. If this is a god idol, you do not get to use its ability. If this is the last tile in a set in the Nile, immediately score the set. If it is the last Scarab ring in the Nile, score the rings. So this will drive scoring condition. If you see that the game is close and one of the items that you want to score is far down here, you can go ahead and push and trigger that by discarding it into the underworld. Next we have Thoth. Swap the locations of 2 tiles in front of your boat in the Nile between your boat and the tomb. This allows you to reposition, again, potentially pulling something closer to you to keep another boat that might be a little bit farther ahead from receiving it. We have Horus. Immediately pull into your collection 1 tile in the Nile that is behind your boat location and score if this completes a set, or move your boat marker to the back of the Nile behind all other boat markers and tiles. Note, this would cancel the removal of any trailing tiles since they would no longer be trailing. So this is going to provide you 2 options. When you land in an Horus tile, you could immediately pull 1 tile into your collection. So you progress forward and then pull something from behind you, potentially something that you forgot that could still be valuable, or you reposition yourself all the way to the back, keeping anything from being discarded at all that turn. We have Osiris. Collect any tile from the underworld. If this is a god idol, use it immediately. Then discard both tiles to the tomb. If it is an artifact, place it in front of you as usual when collected from the Nile. If it is a Scarab ring, spend 1 gold as usual when you collect it. So Osiris is going to allow you to pull something back from the underworld. Now this could be a normal tile, adding to your set, hopefully securing you a first place turn, or this could be a god tile, something that was discarded that you might not have needed at the time, but when you pull it back, you're going to immediately be able to use its action. Next and last, we have Isis. Swap a Scarab ring in your collection for any tile in the Nile, resolve the newly collected tile as usual. The gold you spent when you originally collected the Scarab ring remains spent. If someone collects a Scarab ring you place back into the Nile, the person spends yet another gold to collect it. So this allows you to take something that you've already bought. Maybe you're not going for that 5 extra gold spent on the Scarab rings. You can swap it out, position for something a little bit more valuable, or secure one of these higher price sets. Those are going to be the god tiles. As you're moving through, in terms of the strategy of this game, you want to keep pace with the other ships. You want to balance out and lean into a few of these collections, always trying to figure out what will resolve before other players trigger, or how you can get something to resolve early enough. These 8 set tiles are extremely valuable, and if you're able to get one of them processed down, it could be incredible for your game, but the problem is a lot of people are going to be going for them, and a few of those tiles will be all the way down here at the bottom, and so they're not going to score till late on in the game. You need to secure your position, spend your gold early on, and make sure that when the time comes for a few of these big turns or big moves, you're positioned or you have your collection built up in a way that allows you to secure that victory right before another player. This is a simple overall, but really, really fascinating little set collection style game. I like the theming, I like the thematics, I like the journey down the Nile. And I'm super excited I was able to take the time to sit down and teach it to you. I hope this has been informative. This has been a How to Play for Tutankhamun. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've made it to this point, hit that subscribe button down below and leave a quack over on the Kickstarter. I'm excited to get the finished copy of this game. Whatever the case though, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing, get out and play some games, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.